Welcome to Worship Rekindled, a space for leaders who are tired of performance and hungry for presence. I'm your host, Sarah Hernandez. Have you ever wondered to yourself, why am I still doing this? I have. Maybe we doubt our calling. Maybe interpersonal dynamics make it hard to continue. Or maybe we find ourselves so deeply exhausted that we can't imagine having the energy to keep going. Over the course of my ministry, I have experienced all three of these and more. Let me tell you a story from early in my ministry. The summer after my first year of college, I was asked by a pastor at the church I grew up in to lead the music portion of worship for a Spanish language service that was beginning there. Now, Spanish is my second language, but I spoke it quite well at that point and was excited about the opportunity to practice. A guitarist would be joining me, I was told, so I'd have some support. 2 hours before the next worship service, I met the guitarist, who was probably about 10 years older than me, and handed him a number of chord charts for songs we'd need to practice over the next few weeks. I was told in no uncertain terms by this guitarist that he would not play an F chord, and I was forbidden to choose a key that required that chord in any song. F chords, while admittedly a bit of a challenge to play on guitar, are in nearly all contemporary Christian music songs and hymns. Now, I could go into a music theory lesson about where the melody sits in the key and the average voice range of most people, but suffice it to say that F chords can't really be entirely avoided in church music, especially not for a higher-voiced female, a soprano, like myself. I tried to explain, and I tried to accommodate his demand, but it was nearly impossible to get through the entire music set without a single F chord. As the summer wore on, he became more and more infuriated with me because F chords were occasionally present in the music. And by the end of the summer, he was openly hostile toward me and began refusing to show up for rehearsals. Maybe he thought I was trying to put as many F chords as possible in the music just to upset him, purposely exposing his inability to play that chord. Or maybe just refusing to accommodate him. I honestly tried to include as few Fs as possible, but simply couldn't eliminate them entirely, and despite opportunities to practice ahead of time, his ability to play the F chord did not improve. At all. Many, many times over that summer, I asked myself, why am I still doing this? I couldn't help him learn guitar skills I don't play. And at 18 years old, I didn't have the tools to navigate an openly hostile situation with a man 10 years my senior. I left for college in the fall emotionally beaten down and questioning if God had really called me into music ministry or if I should ever join a worship team again. I share this story not to shame that guitarist. We've probably all been that person at some point or other. But I share it to point out the fact that if you've spent more than a few months in ministry, you'll come to a point where you will ask yourself, why am I still doing this? You will likely doubt whether or not God has called you to this ministry. Instead of pointing to that doubt as evidence of lack of faith or calling, maybe we can agree instead that a calling into ministry is hard, and we're not always prepared for the challenges with which we're presented. Sometimes I find that I need a reminder that doing ministry in my own strength is a recipe for disaster. Our strength is insufficient for the call that God has placed on our lives. Only God's strength has proven to be sufficient for God's work. The psalmist reminds us repeatedly of God's strength and that God is the source of his people's strength. God's people are commanded in Joshua and Isaiah not to fear, but to look to God for strength and courage. These examples make me think of the difference between striving and living into one's calling. For the purposes of this reflection, let's define striving as working in one's own strength and calling as working in God's strength. As we consider this difference, let's be clear. Healthy boundaries are not just recommended, but must exist around our ministry work and every area of our lives. We are finite beings partnering with the work of our infinite God. When we minister in our own strength, we find ourselves exhausted and stretched thin by the many tasks that need doing and the needs and wants of the people around us. In this thin place, if we're not careful, we position ourselves for physical illness, isolation, bitterness, and worse. In these spaces, we may think we're being more productive, but eventually we will see the end of our own strength and have to face the consequences of our striving. We end up pouring from an empty cup and might even begin to see that we may have been building our own kingdom under the guise of building God's kingdom. Operating out of calling, however, has the potential to help us lean into a healthier rhythm of running and resting. If we can learn to prioritize allowing God to pour into us through time spent in the Word, prayer, natural beauty, and physical movement, it is likely we will be more productive, or at least productive in a different way, as we work from God's strength and pour from a cup that has been filled by the God who first loved us. It seems counterintuitive, and to be clear, most of us will spend the rest of our lives negotiating where the line between striving and calling is found in our own lives and ministries. But awareness of this difference is essential to encourage emotional and physical health for those in ministry. Many of us have seen the consequences of inattention to this difference in news headlines and up close in our own churches. Let's agree to do the work of spiritual formation now so that we can serve well throughout our lives. How do we do this work? Well, a good portion of it is what we call spiritual formation. It is slow work. It has much more to do with small, hidden disciplines and decisions over a lifetime, rather than brief public moments of applause. Listen, no one is going to clap for you when you get up 30 minutes early to read scripture, or when you take a walk at lunch to spend time talking to your Creator and observing the beauty of creation, or stay awake a little bit longer to meditate on scripture before you go to bed. In fact, people may openly criticize these practices, asserting that you would be more productive if you just got to work. But these are the mundane moments that build character and form us. And the more we point our hearts toward God and allow Him the opportunity to redirect us, the more we submit to God's ways. These moments build spiritual endurance, which is important for our lives of faith. Spiritual endurance isn't flashy, but it cultivates faithfulness in us, so we can serve God faithfully for our whole lives. If you're feeling stretched thin and realizing you don't have a regular practice that deepens your spiritual formation and endurance, you're likely heading towards burnout, and you need to make some adjustments. If you are engaging in spiritual formation practices and are still feeling stretched, you may be experiencing that discomfort due to the building of endurance and depth. This is not the time to abandon your formation practices, but to prioritize them more than ever. Remember, the goal is not to be flashy and loud for a short time, but to serve faithfully over the long term and finish well at the end of our lives. Do you remember the story I shared earlier? That story describes one of the many times I've asked, why am I still doing this? As you remember that story, does a particular experience from your own life come to mind? I want to invite you to hold that memory or experience for just a moment. Maybe it's uncomfortable. That's okay. If you need an embodied movement to help you hold that experience, consider cupping your hands in front of you and imagining that experience gently resting on your palms. Let's take a deep breath together, in and out. And remember, you're not alone. Our God is well acquainted with pain and discomfort and is present with us as we experience it. What comes to mind for you? Is it fatigue?
Shame? Hurt? Anger? Where in your body do you feel it? Tightness in your chest? Heat on your face? Tingling in your hands or feet? Let's take this opportunity to be honest with ourselves and with God about our experiences, feelings, and the ways they may have gotten stuck in our bodies. As you hold that experience, take another deep breath with me, in and out, and send it to the cross of Christ. In your mind's eye, you can gently place it at the foot of the cross, or you can fling it toward the center. We surrender everything we are to the risen Lord, and we set our hope on the one who has redeemed us. Are you asking yourself, why am I still doing this? Are you feeling stretched, exhausted, confused, or ready to quit? You're not alone. There is space for you here, and God is with us. I want to invite you to consider your answer to a couple of questions. Feel free to grab your phone or a journal and write down your thoughts and spend some time in prayer after this episode. The first question is this: where am I serving from emptiness? The next question is this: where have I felt joy? As we end our time together, I invite you to receive this blessing based on Romans 12:1 and 2. May you not be conformed to the world, but rather be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you can discern the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. And this is your charge. Go into your homes, communities, and churches, and present yourselves as a living sacrifice to God, so that others may see God's goodness in you and come to know God's goodness in their own lives. This has been Worship Rekindled with your host, Sarah Hernandez. For more, please visit our website at www.worshiprekindled.com.